So thank you for joining the Ask Bosco Modo 25 How to Win on Facebook Ads in 2022 webinar. We're going to go through and sort of panel session. I thought, first of all, it's probably appropriate for us to introduce ourselves, who we are, and why we might be qualified to talk about this. So I'm going to go through 2-3 minutes on who we are, and then we're going to get the experts are on the stage. So Dan and Emanuela are going to talk through some of the trials and tribulations we've found over the last 6 months with some of our clients and some of our partners, and sort of what we've been seeing in the industry. And hopefully by the end, you'll have sort of 4 significant takeaways that you can actually use in the real world tomorrow at work, whether you're an agency, because I know we've got several agencies on here, or whether you're a retailer or a brand using Facebook for advertising. So I'm going to get Dan and Emanuela up in a minute, and then I'm just going to talk through who we are and why we're sort of in a place to talk about this. So we are a supported in-housing agency. And what we do is we help brands and retailers take control of their digital marketing. We help run their digital marketing for a period of time. We can help them then with recruitment, training, support, and then hand that back over to them in-house and use our clever marketing AI to help keep an eye on that in the background. So we're sort of a different type of business to what you maybe associate with other types of agencies. We've got lots of really relevant experience, both working with our in-house clients and working with our actual clients as an agency, as well as the predictions from our software. So there is a slightly bigger picture behind all this. So when I first set up the business, I am still part of a company where we're cycling from London to Australia over 25 years to raise money for a Ugandan orphanage. And I wanted to continue that theme within this business. And what I decided to do was actually name the business after one of the children at the orphanage in Uganda. And then we named our software after the gentleman who runs the charity over there called Bosco. And actually one of our team is heading over there next month to really sort of see how we've helped support them. And I'm trying to work out, could we even set up an office over there in Ginger? And charity and trying to do good things is the core of what we're doing. So I just thought this is a very relevant quick share. Our CTO last weekend was with a colleague and a friend of ours. They were trying to work out how to help the refugees. And the process with the government is actually quite tricky, because you register online and then they say, go find yourself a Ukrainian to help. So we've set up, or not we, our CTO has built with a friend of mine, Headley, homesforukrainians.co.uk. And this is now launched today and is out there. And hopefully we can, even if we only help 1 or 2 families, find somewhere, that would be amazing. But yeah, afterwards, if you can look that up, share it with people who want to house and host refugees, that would be amazing. So if you've got any comments at all, questions, just fire them into the Q&A or the chat. We will be sort of monitoring the chat from our side and the Q&A. So we will respond when we get into the Q&A, sort of when we're going to try and do live Q&A throughout. So to try and keep it more like a panel discussion rather than just us talking at you. So we built Bosco to help people work out where to invest their next pound. And that's become increasingly harder in Facebook, as you probably know recently. And sometimes it might feel like you're gambling with your budgets. And it is really tricky, especially now being to be able to measure stuff that's coming through from Facebook or not. So it is a really complex puzzle and probably becoming more complex as we start adding in new channels like TikTok, Snapchat, and all the other channels as things emerge. And what we sort of realized right at the beginning is we need to get all your data into one place so we can actually help understand what is actually going on and compare channel by channel and campaign by campaign. Otherwise, it becomes really difficult to give any accurate forecasting. So what we want to try and do for marketeers and for brands and for agencies is enable people to ask smarter questions and make better decisions. So that's why we built Bosco. And Bosco basically is a digital marketing intelligence platform that uses AI to help you make smarter decisions. At the end of the session, we'll show you how you could forecast within your Facebook, and everybody who's on the webinar today can have a free access to Bosco to forecast what Facebook could or couldn't do for your business. So we'll show you how to do that at the end, and you can get a free link, connect your Facebook to Bosco for free, and it will give you a forecast. So Bosco helps you save time, gives you actionable insights, hopefully make more money, and ultimately will also help you improve the efficiency of your team or your relationships with your agency. These are a few clients who are actively using Bosco and Modo 25. So we're very proud that over the last 2 years since we set the business up, in a global pandemic, we have managed to sign up some significant retail brands and some excellent clients. But it's also about partners. Our biggest route to market globally is through our relationships with technology partners such as Shopify and BigCommerce and some of the biggest agencies in the world. So that's enough about Bosco and about us. I'm now going to invite the panel to put their cameras on, and we can introduce those guys, and then we're going to do a quick poll, and then we're going to get cracking into the sort of Q&A. So I think ladies first, if you want to take yourself off mute, Emanuela, and introduce yourself, and then Dan, if you can do the same, and then we'll get cracking.
Thank you, John. Yeah, so hi, everyone. It's very nice to be here with all of you, although I cannot see your faces. So yeah, my name is Emanuela. I am the Senior Paid Social Account Manager. I joined Modo 25 over 5 weeks ago. I come from an agency called Havas, where I was working on clients such as Starbucks, Homebase, Swarovski, Puma. So I have an experience across different industries in the retail and finance and education industries. So yeah, I have over 5 years experience in paid social. Over to you, Dan.
Hey everyone, yeah, good to be here too. So yeah, I'm Dan, I'm the Director of Agency at Modo 25. So I've been at Modo 25 for 2.5 years now, which isn't much less than the lifetime of Modo 25. I've been working in digital marketing for around 12 years now. So yeah, as with Emmanuel, I worked across a really wide range of industries, clients, businesses, everything from budgets from 500, £1,000 a month to working with, yeah, million pound in a month budget. So a big spread there. And yeah, good to have this opportunity to chat about some of this.
You're missing the romantic story, Dan, the fact that we used to work together at Search Labs, and you actually used to work for my cousin.
Well, long history, working for your cousin in a cafe and then working with you at Search Labs.
Yeah, so yeah, no, it's great to have, it's great when you set up a business and people who've worked with you across your career pop up, and some of the best people who you've worked with over time then say, I'd love to join your exciting new venture. So yeah, so I'm going to just quickly fire up a poll, and what we want to ask you, so if you can all take part in the poll, please, and let me just set this live. So has your Facebook ads performance changed since the changes last summer, really? So has it improved? Have they stayed the same, got worse, or probably worse, you're not really sure? So, and then we can sort of see what the context of that is, because I think part of the challenge is people are struggling to work out what's what. So hopefully by the end of today, we can give you some actionable insights for you to move forward with your Facebook advertising. So we've got quite, yeah, most people have responded, so that's good. So let me just share the results of that so you can see. So yeah, so that's, so only 4% of you have said it's improved. 13% say it's stayed the same. 46% are saying it's got worse. And I suppose probably just as bad as got worse is we're not really sure. And I think that's part of the puzzle that hopefully we can try and answer today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, which will mean we hopefully can get bigger on the screen and you can all see us. And then I'm going to sort of kick off with really sort of just asking Dan, sort of, it sort of all changed, didn't it, Dan, last year? And what sort of really happened? How would you sort of explain it for those who are still trying to work out what did happen so they can explain to their boss what happened?
So yeah, as part of iOS 14, which rolled out last summer, so the biggest change really was the introduction of the app tracking transparency framework, as Apple call it. So Facebook claimed this was Apple's attempt to get more profit, whereas Apple obviously claim it was their attempt to protect their users' privacy. But I think one of the sort of most impactful changes from that was the prompt for any app that comes through the Apple App Store to actually prompt users to accept tracking across apps and other websites. Now, it's always been possible for a user to actually block that tracking through an iPhone, but up until that prompt, it had never been so much put in their face, and it was something that needs to be responded to. And there was a big expectation that it was going to cause a lack of tracking. I think the first forecasts were around an 80% opt-out estimate, but the figures indicate that it was closer to 90% of people opting out to that, and there's no way that Facebook can actually control it, change the wording to try and encourage people to add it or anything like that. And as a result, tracking on iOS devices is down around 75%. So big impact as a result of all of that. I think the main ones are actual reporting of performance, but it's also that performance itself. And I think that's something that's really important that people realize. There's a lot of talk online of how much of this is just lack of reporting, and Facebook not being able to see when those conversions happen or when those actions happen and not being able to report on them. But as much as they're not able to report on them, they're actually not able to track them themselves. So they're not able to optimize to that data. And obviously a huge part of the success that a lot of companies have seen on Facebook have been just utilizing Facebook's algorithm and their ability to put the right ad in front of the right user. And without that tracking, it's actually had a huge impact on their ability to do that. There are a few other things that have been impacted. So the actual size of Facebook's audience network, for example. But yeah, the biggest ones really is that tracking and reporting.
And I suppose, I still believe the audience is still there. So there's still all these people there. But so if you're an advertiser now, what are the sort of key challenges? What do we do about this? Because I certainly am still on Facebook, and I'm certainly still seeing loads of ads. So what are the sort of main challenges now?
Yeah, so to me, I think the biggest challenge is actually understanding the mix of those 2 points that I've just made there. Because if it was really clear cut and it was, okay, well, we know that performance has dropped on Facebook because this is purely the fact that Facebook can't do what they were doing before with the algorithm, then it would be quite a simple decision to pull back to make sure you're hitting the same cost per action, cost per result, ROAS, whatever you were optimizing to before. That would be a relatively easy decision, but it's actually the fact that it isn't as simple and it isn't as clear cut, and it is a combination of reporting difficulties and optimization difficulties. And with that means there comes sort of questions to be answered of, what decision do I make? What direction do I take this in? Do I continue being aggressive, or do I need to pull back? And I think the other challenge for advertisers is that this is just going to become more and more common. So Google just last month released more information about their privacy sandbox, which is basically the equivalent that they're going to be rolling out. So there's going to be implications to that across all Android devices as well.
Do you think that part of the challenge is we got so used to being able to track absolutely everything, and we almost set up our whole businesses on being able to just track everything?
Yeah, I think if you think about sort of Facebook and compare it to sort of in the early stages when it launched, and also other display channels as well, there's always used to be a focus on creative and driving action and actually making sure that things were tailored to a user. And it felt like it much more just became a black box, plug and play, set up your Facebook account. And obviously there was people doing a better job than others of that, but a lot of it was just letting the algorithm do its thing. And now that has really been impacted by this lack of tracking, like you say.
Yeah, and I will add to that, John. So you asked whether our audiences are still on Facebook. Like you are, I am. I think if we will
maybe
ask
it's just the two of us. Maybe it's just two of us.
Well, I'm sure if we ask everyone here whether they're on Facebook and Instagram, they will put their hands up. I personally use Instagram more than Facebook, and that's another opportunity for some advertisers here, that Instagram has continued to launch new features that help small businesses. But recently, some of you might be aware, We Are Social. So they every year they publish some data on internet usage and also social media usage. And the most recent one, which was 2021, around 76% of active internet users are on Facebook. So Facebook continues to be the platform that will give you that reach, and around 52% are on Instagram. So although we continue to see platforms such as TikTok and Snapchat to rise, Facebook continues to be the one that has the majority of users.
Yeah, and do you think this is, as a sort of industry, is this certain types of companies, or is it certain types of products, or is everybody having the same problems?
I think everyone has been affected by the changes over a year ago. Some companies have been more affected than others, especially some clients, for example, in my experience, they focus because of their budgets as well, mainly on doing that brand awareness and that reach. But it's definitely affected everyone because the targeting capabilities on Facebook are different to what they were 2 years ago. So some of us in the industry perhaps remember that we were able to target our competitors' Facebook, the people that follow our competitors' Facebook page. You cannot do that anymore. So targeting used to be a lot much better than it is now.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that, I completely agree, it definitely has impacted everyone. And I'd say that those 4% of people who voted that it's improved results, that is their change in strategy or their overall business improving, because this will have impacted everyone. But there's definitely areas that will have been worse than others. So Apple users, iOS users are more likely to be younger demographics. I think there's 20%, around 20% more 18 to 24-year-olds have Apple than Android. Apple's more prevalent on higher income households. iPhone users are more likely to make purchases through their mobile. So there's factors like that do play into it. That means that certain industries, so fashion aimed at a younger demographic, for example, would have been impacted more than a high value B2B campaign, for example.
Okay, so what do we do? What have we seen, and how have different people reacted, and different companies? What have we sort of seen, Dan? What sort of things have we learned?
Yeah, I mean, I guess across our clients and people we've spoken to, and accounts that we've got access through as an agency and through Bosco's, it's interesting that there's really notable changes either way. So some brands have really pulled back. They've seen this, they've seen the results drop, and they've said, we need to achieve this cost per result, we need to hit this ROAS or this cost per lead, and the only way that we can make this viable, or at least appear viable through the results that we're seeing, is to pull back spend, focus on only those areas that were really working at their highest prior to the change, and that's a big drop in spend, big drop in sales, leads, whatever it is as a result, but just maintaining that profitability. Whereas on the other hand, there are certainly brands who have acted in a different way. So whether that's utilizing different attribution models, or whether that's assessing the platform in a different way altogether, actually gone on to increase budgets or set different strategies for Facebook overall, whether that's reach, branding, those sorts of metrics. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's certainly more of the former than the latter. Which you can see by the fact that Facebook themselves have predicted that their revenue is going to drop by 10 billion this year. So they are purely saying is a result of this rollout.
I think 10 billion, well, 10 billion probably to everybody on this call is a huge number, but to Facebook is they're still going to be making a few quid. I was looking at the Facebook, Google numbers, and I think there's a graph you can see of their growth, and there's certainly people, the platforms have been the winners of the pandemic, the advertising platforms, the growth has been phenomenal. So, and I'm sure they'll come up with another way to sell people adverts.
Yeah,
so
and I mean, we're seeing Instagram Reels as well. So they're trying to make those features that TikTok are launching into Instagram, so people don't go, well, advertisers don't go away from Instagram to TikTok. So yeah, definitely we will.
Do you think they've missed, and do you think they've sort of missed the boat a bit there with that? Were they a bit late with that?
Not necessarily. As I said, I think yeah, the younger generation are both active on TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram. And I think the capabilities that Instagram has as well, especially for small businesses, are great. So yeah, no, I would say that there are still, as I mentioned previously, more users, active users are on Instagram than any other platforms.
Yeah, okay. And I suppose ultimately Instagram we control in the same way that we control Facebook. So it's exactly the same problems and issues and everything. And we've got a question in from James. Hi, James. Thanks for joining us. Have we got any idea why Facebook did? Was it? I suppose he's asking why did they decide to change their targeting criteria, and like about the sort of removing targeting where people had interest groups. So, because that necessarily can't have all been about privacy. I don't know. What do we think?
Yeah, so less about.
You go. No, you go, Dan. No, you go, Dan.
I was going to say less about privacy and more about the impact of this change and data collection. So Facebook don't just collect their data within Facebook; they collect their data across their wider network of sites and apps, which make up sort of the audience network that you can target as well. So with the restrictions across not just the Facebook app, but all apps on iOS, there are far fewer data points for Facebook to collect that data on. So where they've removed some targeting criteria is typically where they've seen that they don't have sufficient data to be confident about that particular audience or that particular interest group. And it ties into, I guess, one of the things that we are going to talk about, which is overall how your targeting should change. And actually, a lot of those quite specific targeting interests or groups or whatever they were just don't work as well as they used to, because Facebook don't have that same level of data anymore, and there isn't the same number of users as part of one of those lists anymore, because again, they've lost the data. So yeah, it's a result of the privacy policy rather than any kind of them trying to make things better for their users.
Yeah, and I will also add to that the most recent scandals that Facebook has been involved with. So as we probably know, the Cambridge Analytics, and also what happened in the presidentials in the US. So they have removed some targeting capabilities to help with this. So some of you might be aware that now if you are promoting anything to do with loans or homes, you need to declare that as a category. And if your business falls under this industry, then you're not able to use many targeting, like no age or geography. So it's just a way for them to tackle these most recent scandals.
So it all sounds a bit doom and gloom now, right? So how best, because I still believe, and maybe it's just because I'm like the eternal optimist and always very positive about everything, there's still loads of people looking at Facebook. So how best should brands and advertisers now approach their Facebook? What should they be doing?
Yeah, so well, I would say like everything that we have spoken today, and as Dan mentioned, we have seen some clients decrease their spend on Facebook because they are not seeing that direct revenue. But I think one of the key points is that Facebook is not a direct revenue platform, but instead it is part of the ecosystem that will help you get new users and drive that purchases towards the end of the channel. So the platform should continue to be part of a more holistic and wider strategy and key player in branding and top of funnel. So if you're a small business, or if you are a big advertiser, keep reminding the users that you exist. So keep your brand top of mind, and you do that with brand awareness campaigns and reach campaigns. So Facebook will continue to be a key player in your marketing strategy, but it has to be combined with other paid channels as well. And what I will say is that a lot of advertisers are mainly focusing on driving that conversion piece. And we have seen that the cost per acquisition has increased. I think the latest that I saw, Dentsu ran a report a couple of weeks ago, and they reported that some clients have seen up to 60% increase in cost per acquisition. So rather than going straight into your conversion campaign, making sure that you're running more top of funnel activities. So again, brand awareness campaigns, but also if you want to see more results, then traffic campaigns. And that's great because it allows you to drive traffic to your website, which you can then use in your retargeting phase with. So for example, some of our clients, we do traffic campaigns, so we're sending users to the website, and when we know that they're interested in the product, then we retarget them with dynamic product ads. So this is the catalog if you have one. But also I would say that with the challenges that we have with our iOS 14, but also next year in 2003, we're going to see that Google has announced that they're going to remove their third-party cookies tracking. So everything that you've been doing over the last year will also help you prepare for what's upcoming. So reach is something that we have been struggling to reach the right people. So having these traffic campaigns to nurture your to gather first-party data is also great. And really, for those of you that has first-party data, utilize that data. So on Facebook, you're able to retarget those audiences, but also create lookalike audiences, which is just a really great way of getting that prospecting audiences.
And
yeah, I think you've kind of, sorry, just to really quickly, I kind of touched on it a bit at the start there in particular, Emanuela, but like, again, if you think about sort of display activity, programmatic activity, whether that's prospecting or retargeting, for a long time, companies and agencies have, yes, had visibility of how that performs on a click-through basis or a view-through basis, but there's always been that big question of incrementality. So is my prospecting doing more than it's getting credit for because it's at the top of funnel, or is my retargeting just claiming everything at the bottom of funnel? And the solution there has been incrementality testing, and now that needs a lot of data, and unfortunately a lot of data means quite big budgets, but it is certainly one of the better ways now of proving your sort of the value of that Facebook activity. So
I suppose that sort of leads on to how can we track it? And I suppose the problem we've got is how we used to track it. It's probably changed. And so how can we track it? And I think the hard questions that people have to answer to their bosses or the finance team or whoever's got the money is, what's the way to report on performance?
So one of the things that we have been encouraging our clients to do, and we will encourage everyone in this call to do tomorrow, is implement your conversion API. So this is a tool that from Facebook, and this has been around a long time ago, but since the iOS 14.5 updates, it has become more important because it allows you to track online conversions events based on the website server, as opposite to what the Pixel does, which is on the browser. So definitely by implementing this is a good way of starting to track that data that you might be losing otherwise. And also through GA, so that's something that some of our clients are doing. So implemented the conversion API and using GA, because this combination is giving us a better visibility on the data.
Okay, and what are the sort of metrics now? Oh, sorry, Dan, were you going to chip in there?
I was just going to add on the cookieless and conversion API. I mean, it can be seen how important that is. I mean, we're not talking about affiliates today, but the fact that for any new client on AWIN now, an affiliate network, you cannot be onboarded without server tracking, which is the equivalent of the conversion API. And yeah, and obviously everything about sort of universal analytics and the move to GA4 kind of ties into how things are going to have to change. Yeah, as a result of sort of
is this just the beginning, and actually everything in all other channels are going to go in the same way? Is that sort of what we're saying, which is probably not a good message, but it's actually, let's get used to it, let's learn how to work with it and change how we track. Is that the gist of it?
I think for some channels, yes. I mean, if you think about your paid search, Google have been making a move away from tagging exact match keywords as a basis of your strategy for a long time now. There's more dynamic elements, more of it's based on their automation, and ultimately all these platforms are going to need solutions like the conversions API and that insight and tools that offer some kind of machine learning element to them to help understand overall performance alongside your most valuable data, which is your first party data.
And what are the metrics? What do you think the metrics we should be looking at?
I think my answer to this question will be it depends, and which is the winner answer. But yeah, no, it really depends on what kind of, well, the budget that you have and the objectives that you are driving. But I would say that a good overall guide is the CPM. So this is how much you're paying to reach your audience. So as probably lots of you know here, the down the funnel that you go is going to be more expensive. So conversion campaigns will be more expensive than a traffic campaign. But also if you're using retargeting audiences and CRM audiences, they will be more expensive to reach. But I would say that having a look at that CPM and whether that's extremely high is a good guide. Also looking at your click-through rate. So if it's very low, so it means that people are not clicking on your ads, and then you're asking, you will need to ask the question why. Perhaps you're not using the right creative, or you're hitting the wrong audience. And then for those of you that are running conversion campaigns, then looking at your add to cart and looking at the percentage of people who didn't convert, and ask why. So is it price point, or perhaps the conversion the product is high consideration? So can you use the strategies to help persuade these users to convert?
And I suppose going forward, so this is obviously a change in the way we do stuff, right? So what problems are people going to see when they're trying to do this, and when they're trying to sort of prove performance? What sort of things what problems are they going to have?
Well, I think, and it's something that we've been seeing over the last year, is the leaking in data. So there's missing data, and that's why we're recommending our clients and everyone here to implement the conversion API. Because yeah, as we mentioned, the cost per acquisition is rising. So yeah, proving this has become more difficult. So getting those tracking implemented through GA and CAPI should be able to help.
Okay. Anything else to add, Dan?
No, I mean, there's obviously been like a fair number of I guess tracking solutions and equivalents to conversions API and server to server, and sort of utilizing first party data and attribution. And I think the big point to make is that whilst some of those will close some of the loop by utilizing your first party data, a lot will also throw in some conversion modeling and estimate a view through conversions, but ultimately Facebook are the only ones who have that data, unfortunately, and they don't have the data to the same extent that they used to have it. So yeah, there are other solutions out there which can make the numbers look a lot more positive, but yeah, there is always going to be a bit of a grey area that you need to account for as well.
Okay, and what would you say are the 4 key things, Emanuela, that people, and we'll email these around afterwards as well for everybody, but what are the sort of 4 things, if we're going to do something different next week, come in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Monday morning, what should we be doing differently?
Well, the first thing, and I have mentioned it before, is implement your conversion API. That will really help you, especially prepare for what we will see in the upcoming. And
is that hard? How easy is that to do?
It's not hard. I think there is lots of YouTube videos that people can use to help implement, but we can also help with that.
There's a few integrations, things like Shopify, WooCommerce, but there's even without those, the dev side of it is fairly straightforward.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like there's a blog so we need to write there.
And like advertisers should be using that alongside the pixel. So that's the first takeaway of this call. The second one is to nurture your first-party data. So if you're running traffic campaigns, then what can you do to gather more data? Can you offer users a freebie, a discount, a white paper, something to get their emails? So then you're populating this pool of audience, which then you can create a lookalike audience, or again retarget them with your campaigns. I will also say consolidate your campaigns. So talking about targeting, before, we were 2-3 years ago, we were breaking down the campaigns by gender, by age, by different interests, and that's not something that is working anymore. Something that we need to let the algorithm do is find those users. So don't have different, 10 different audiences, but then really consolidate your campaigns by broadening your target audience, by running dynamic creative. So some of you, if you know what a dynamic creative is, if you have 5 different images and then you have 4 different copies, you can really test this, and the algorithm will deliver the best copy, the best creative, the best CTA to each specific user. And then finally, I will say creative. I think many advertisers still struggle to make sure that the creative is grabbing the user's attention. So what we recommend, and this is Facebook creative best practices, is that make sure that your logo is up front. If you're using a video, that the logo is throughout, that the video is no longer than 15 seconds. I think lots of you have already heard this from many people, but yeah, really making sure that the creative is right, because people spend 3 seconds going through their feed, and if you don't grab that user's attention, then you're missing an opportunity to get a new user. So really make sure that the quality of the creative is good. And when you're using the copy, that the line that isn't, you're not having like a massive copy, so like 3 lines, so people like know what you want them to do, click on your ad, and then hopefully convert down the channel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, some of the audiences that we've seen do particularly well since iOS 14, and I say that's do particularly well comparable to an account as a whole. So for the first time, seeing things like targeting your Facebook page viewers, or people who have already engaged with your ads, whether that's watched a video that you prospected with or upper funnel images. So users who are engaging with your previous ads in the funnel, that performance actually overtaking your traditional remarketing performance, because the costs of traditional remarketing have risen so much when audiences are smaller. And also that's extra data that Facebook have, and Facebook themselves they obviously give you insight into how they are rating your ad copy, engagement rate, things like that. I think that's becoming even more important once again. I think it was back in the early days as well, because if Facebook can understand how well an ad's performing and if people are engaging with that, it's also going to be able to target those users again further down the line.
So, well, we'll send the summaries round, and I think the answer is it's getting harder, but it's not too much of a drastic thing. And I think it's,
we weren't too negative, were we, John?
I don't think we're too negative. We managed to keep it positive, and I think this has been whilst we've been building our reporting platform, this has been a massive complex issue in the middle of all of this. So I'm just gonna, everybody who's on the call, if they want, we can give you a free forecast, so we can show you within Bosco how your business is doing, where the opportunity lies. So for instance, if we were to sort of we can then forecast, right, what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen next month. And what Bosco basically does, it connects all your data together, and then it actually goes through and predicts what the next move should be, particularly around paid channels. So if we were looking at, say, cost and revenue, we can then start seeing, right, in Facebook, what is happening, what should be happening. And then more importantly, we can give you some actual outputs. So what should we do for the rest of this week? What should we do for the rest of this month? And this gives you some sort of outputs at a sort of per campaign level across all your different campaigns and channels. So this could be given to your agency, or if you're an agency, you can use it on your clients, or if you're doing things in-house, it gives you the ability to sort of know where to focus. So hopefully Bosco enables people to ask smarter questions of themselves or their agency, and reduces human error around reporting. So within the reporting side of things, you can actually pull all your channels together in one place, and then actually have everything from all your channels compared like for like, which some of our clients have started using Bosco just to do this bit, and then the actual forecast on top is really a bonus in terms of being able to see, right, what's going to happen in Google Shopping next month, and what should I be spending, and what's the performance. So that's what Bosco does, and everybody who's on the call, if you want, could get free access to Bosco. Plug in your Facebook data, see what it's predicting for you. Again, if you also, as a sort of bonus, would get, if you plugged in your Google or your Amazon or anything, it will also do that. It doesn't just do Facebook, but because we're talking about Facebook today, that's what we thought we would talk about. So in order to do that, all you have to do is email me, M-E, not John, me, M-E at askbosco.io, and we'll reply to you with some instructions, and then it will automatically connect everybody up. And then once we've got the forecast, we'll get in touch with you and sort of show you how to access that. So thank you very much for your time. We've got some unanswered questions that we'll go back to the individuals with and answer those. So apologies, we sort of slightly over time, but yeah, I'd like to thank you for your time. We'll send a copy of the recording round and a copy of the slides. Everybody always says finish with a picture of a dog, because people love dogs. So have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Emanuela. Thank you, Dan. And
thank you, everyone.
Hopefully we wish you a bright and rosy future on your Facebook as we come into the summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.